Mistake 104. I spent absolutely years trying to fix the wrong thing. Welcome back to my mistake series where I'm documenting all the mistakes I made trying to grow my service-based business. So hopefully you can avoid wasting the same amount of time and energy that I did. And if that's your kind of content, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss anything. Now, this one is a little embarrassing. Actually, come to think of it, who am I kidding? They're all a little bit embarrassing, but if they help you, that's fine. So, I think I've said before that some mistakes I didn't realise that I was doing at the time. But this isn't one of those. This one I very much did knowingly. What I didn't know was just how much of a problem it was causing. What I thought I was doing effectively, what I thought the result was going to be, was like pulling back a slingshot. So I thought this was step one in in the pulling back. And then what was going to happen was going to be that my business was going to like propel forward. But that forward slingshot motion, I didn't really see that bit, not from doing what I did this way anyway. And the ironic thing is that I spent so long doing this thing and making this mistake and talking about it that like just for so long and so much that people thought I was a tech person. And that mistake was trying to find the absolute perfect system. I set up CRM after CRM after CRM, email platform after email platform. I tried different project management tools, different funnels, different ways of doing things. Like, I literally tried all the software out there. I really did. I genuinely convinced myself that if I could just find that one perfect system, everything would just magically click into place and start working. Now, obviously, looking back on it and realizing the mistakes that I made, trying to understand what it was that I was doing, I get it now. I didn't get it back then. What I was actually doing wasn't looking for a better system at all. I wasn't looking for a better CRM. I wasn't looking for a better email platform. Like, I was looking for certainty. I wanted that guarantee that this is what was going to happen. And I think I felt like that is kind of what I'd been sold by from a system. I thought that the next tool would somehow make me look more organised, more professional, more successful. And just it's like, I thought it would be like this magic wand that got waved and just, the business would just start scaling for me because it was on a particular platform. Spoiler alert, it didn't. So yeah, I literally spent years doing this and changing systems and tweaking things. And why did it take me years? Because each time it would be months of learning a new platform, creating a new setup. Just as an example, like, people would say, oh, you need MailerLite. So I'd go and set up MailerLite, and then someone else would say to me, oh no, you don't need that. What you need is like an all-in-one. So I'd start looking at those, and then someone else would tell me, oh, it shouldn't be this all-in-one. It should be high level. It should be, it should be all of these things. And then someone else would come along and go, oh no, don't use an all-in-one. That's a terrible thing to do for your business. And I'd just constantly be rethinking everything and rebuilding everything, like again and again and again. And because the people that I was listening to, um, they all sounded like they knew what they were talking about. So, you know, I'd follow them and I'd take their advice and I'd convince myself that they must know something that I didn't in order to be saying these things. So that meant off I'd go again, right? Setting something else up, moving things across, building automations, creating tags, tweaking templates, learning yet another platform. And yes, I got great at it, but that was never the actual business. So the worst thing I probably did in all of it, every time that I changed systems, I was convinced that I was being productive. Why was I convinced that I was being productive? Because I was just so busy. I was setting things up, I was organizing things, I was planning things, I was like building things. And the trouble was that actually none of those things were actually putting my offer in front of customers. Nobody was buying because I changed CRM. Nobody was thinking, wow, look at her emails. They come from a really professional platform. And she's got like the best one going. Nobody cared because customers don't see the back end of your business. And they don't really care how you operate on the back end. They care whether you solve their problem, and that's pretty much it. So what I eventually noticed after battling it out with the huppy a couple of times, like obviously being really insistent that I was being very productive, but what I came to realize was that I was spending more time building the infrastructure than actually driving traffic through it. So I want you to remember this one thing. The fanciest system in the world won't help if nobody knows your offer exists. And it's not just about your system setup. It's about how your business is structured as well. And I made the same mistake with my funnels too. Every time I changed the system and I rebuilt the system, I'd build a new funnel. I'd create this offer, this structure, of which I'd put out a handful of times. I might get some results, but not necessarily the ones that I wanted. And then I'd convince myself that the funnel wasn't working. And that was in spite of everything that I know, in spite of all the advice that I give other people, the way I really truly understand that things work. But I was doing it anyway, and I was building another one, and then another one, and then another one every time that I changed those systems. And like honestly, the issue really wasn't the funnel at all. It wasn't the offer at all. The issue was that I hadn't given it enough time. I hadn't promoted it enough. I hadn't collected enough data. I was knocking it all down and rebuilding it before I even knew whether it worked properly. Eventually, what I did was that, well, as you know from probably previous videos, I ended up burning out and I burnt my business to the ground. And with rebuilding it later on, I have come to use that knowledge. I've reflected on everything that I did, come to terms with the fact that I don't need the perfect system. What I do need is a system that I'm actually going to use. And, I need to stick with one thing, stop changing things every 5 minutes, because consistency truly does just knock complexity out of the water every single time. Now that I am rebuilding, I'm going to tell you exactly what it is that I'm doing, because I am rebuilding right now in the middle of it. So I stopped chasing the perfect setup. And I'm just focused on keeping things really simple. Simplicity is just going to rule through and through. And surprisingly, or not, as the case may be, because I know that this is actually the way to do it and the way it's actually going to work, is my business has already started to grow. I've done some minimal, very, very simple things, but my social media audience is growing. My audience is growing here on YouTube. My community is growing over on school. And I'm really proud of that, because we have the best people in there, and I help them keep I help them to keep things really simple too, so that they don't get overwhelmed and they can actually grow as well. So I just want to leave you with this sort of last little bit of the fact that it was never the systems that were holding me back. It was me, and I was just blaming the system and the tools that I had. So I'd really, really love to know, because I don't think that I'm on my own in doing this. Like, how many times have you changed a system? Whether it is changing a CRM, an email platform, starting a new planner because you know that new planner is going to just be perfect, or another project management tool, or something else in your business. Let me know. And if you know somebody that is going through this cycle of just constantly rebuilding and rebuilding and rebuilding, because they think that perfect new system they've heard of is going to be the magic thing, they might just need to hear this. And I'll see you on the next video.